The references for Section 1, Program Management, include 29 Code of Federal Regulations, CFR 1910, 29 CFR 1926, 29 CFR 1960, Executive Order 12196, Federal Acquisition Regulation or FAR Clause 52.236-13, Department of Defense Instruction DODI 6055.1, Army Regulation or AR 40-5, and Army Regulation 385-10. The overarching guidance of this section is to provide the overall programmatic guidance for developing, managing, and implementing a safety and occupational health program. No person shall be required, instructed, or allowed to work in surroundings or under conditions that are unsafe or dangerous to his or her health. Each employee is responsible for complying with applicable safety and occupational health or SOH requirements, wearing prescribed SOH equipment, reporting unsafe conditions or activities, preventing avoidable mishaps, and working in a safe manner. Also, supervisors shall remove employees from exposure to work hazards or the work site when they are observed acting in an unsafe manner or otherwise pose a potential safety and occupational health or SOH threat to themselves or others. Employees may return to the work environment after appropriate supervisory action has occurred, such as retraining on proper safe procedures. The contractor, or USACE, shall erect and maintain a safety and occupational health bulletin board in a commonly accessed area and clear view of the on-site workers. The bulletin board shall be continually maintained and updated and placed in a location that is protected against the elements and unauthorized removal. At a minimum, the bulletin board shall contain the following information: a map denoting the route to the nearest emergency care facility, emergency phone numbers, a copy of the most current Accident Prevention Plan, or APP, or Project Safety and Occupational Health, SOH plan, mounted on or adjacent to the bulletin board, or a notice on the bulletin board stating the location of the plan, which shall be accessible on-site by all workers. A copy of the hazardous material inventory, identification of use, approximate quantities, and site map denoting location as required by 06.B.01a. The bulletin board shall also include the Safety and Occupational Health Administration, or OSHA, Form 300A, Summary of Work-Related Injuries and Illnesses, shall be posted in accordance with OSHA requirements from February 1st to April 30th of the year following the issuance of this form. It shall be mounted on or adjacent to the bulletin board and accessible on the site by all workers. A copy of the SOH deficiency tracking log mounted on or adjacent to the bulletin board or a notice on the bulletin board shall state the location where it may be accessed by all workers upon request. Finally, the bulletin board shall also include safety and occupational health promotional posters, date of last lost workday injury, and date of last OSHA recordable injury, and other OSHA safety and health posters. Construction contract work shall be in accordance with the provisions of FAR Clause 52.236-13. Contractors shall comply with the latest version of EM 385-1-1, including interim changes that is in effect on the date of solicitation. Prior to making an offer, bidders should check with the Headquarters U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Safety and Occupational Health website, see paragraph C of this section for the latest changes. No separate payment will be made for compliance with this paragraph or for compliance with other safety and health requirements of this contract. Note, existing contracts will continue to apply the provisions of the previous edition of this manual until contract completion. For service, supply, and research and development contracting actions, Compliance with this manual shall be contract requirement for such activities unless technical representatives, in coordination with safety and health professionals, advise that special precautions are not appropriate due to extremely limited scope of services or similar. This manual in its entirety may be too complex for the type of work being performed under these contracts. These contractors may reference Appendix A for an abbreviated accident prevention plan. For contracting actions for hazardous, toxic, and radioactive waste site investigation, design, or remediation activities, compliance with this manual shall be a contract requirement. All interim changes made between publication of new editions to this manual and the effective date of change will be posted on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Safety and Occupational Health website and in U.S. Army Corps of Engineers electronic bid sets. For U.S. Army Corps of Engineer contracts, hard copies of this manual are available from the local contracting official. This provision may not apply to other contracting agencies. Supplementation of this manual is not authorized except as published by the Safety and Occupational Health Office, Headquarters, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, or the contracting authority. Local U.S. Army Corps of Engineer organizations may develop standard operating procedures, or SOPs, to implement the provisions contained within this manual, but may not implement new requirements, for example, more stringent, different intent, etc., without the specific approval of Headquarters, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Locally developed safety and health requirements will not be included in contract requirements without the approval of Headquarters, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, or the contracting authority. Contractors shall identify each major phase of work that will be performed. Within each major phase, all activities, tasks, or definable features of work shall be identified that will require an activity hazard analysis. New in the 2014 edition is that activity hazard analysis will not be turned in with the accident prevention plan. These are intended to be provided immediately before the associated definable feature of work. Before initiation of work at the job site, an accident prevention plan shall be submitted by the contractor and reviewed and found acceptable by the government designated authority. See Appendix A for more information. The contractor shall address each of the elements, sub-elements in the outline contained in Appendix A in the order that they are provided in the manual. If an item is not applicable because of the nature of the work to be performed, the contractor shall state this exception and provide a justification. The contractor's APP shall be job specific and must include work to be performed by subcontractors. If at the time of submission of the APP, portions of the work have yet to be known or subcontracted, that portion will be added to the APP, submitted and accepted by the government designated authority prior to initiation of the subcontracted work. Each subcontractor shall be provided a copy of the APP by the prime contractor and be required to comply with it. The contractor shall provide ongoing evaluations of the APP throughout the life of the project. Changes, revisions, and updates to the APP shall be reviewed and accepted by the GDA. The APP or the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Project SOH plan shall provide for frequent safety inspections or audits conducted by a competent person of the work sites, material, and equipment to ensure compliance with the plan and this manual. These inspections or audits shall be documented in writing and available upon request to the GDA, and shall include the name of the inspector, date, and all findings. Contractor quality control, or QC individuals, and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers or other contracting authority quality assurance personnel as part of their QC and QA responsibilities, shall conduct and document daily SOH inspections in their daily logs. The contractor or U.S. Army Corps of Engineers project shall establish a SOH deficiency tracking system that lists and monitors the status of SOH deficiencies in chronological order. The tracking system provides useful information that must be used to evaluate the effectiveness of the APP. A monthly evaluation of the data should be discussed in the QC or SOH meeting with everyone on the project. The list shall be posted on the bulletin board, be updated daily, and should provide the following information: safety and health deficiency tracking system list, date deficiency identified, description of deficiency, name of person responsible for correcting deficiency, project resolution date, date actually resolved. The contractor shall immediately notify the GDA of any OSHA or other regulatory agency inspection and provide GDA an opportunity to accompany the contractor on the inspection. The inspection will not be delayed due to non-availability of a GDA. The contractor shall provide the GDA with a copy of any citations or reports issued by the inspector and any corrective action responses to the citations or reports. The GDA shall notify the local safety occupational health office of any regulatory visits. Risk management is a business process that includes the identification, assessment, and prioritization of risks, followed by coordinated and economical application of resources to minimize, monitor, and control the probability and/or impact of unfortunate events to an acceptable level. This manual and the use of activity hazard analysis, or AHAs, is part of a total risk management process. Note, see Figure 1-2 for a non-mandatory formatted outline of an activity hazard analysis. An electronic version activity hazard analysis may be found on the headquarters U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Safety Office website. This slide provides an example of the activity hazard analysis contained within this manual. Activity hazard analysis shall define the steps being performed within the activity, task, or defined feature of work, and identify the work sequences, specific anticipated hazards, site conditions, equipment, materials, personnel, and the control measures to be implemented. Before beginning each work activity, task, or defined feature of work, the contractor performing that work activity shall prepare the initial activity hazard analysis. A risk assessment code, or RAC, is assigned to each step, to the risk that remains after controls have been applied, or the residual risk. Once this process has occurred, a RAC will be assigned to the activity as a whole. The activity RAC cannot be lower than the highest RAC for any single step. This residual risk must then be communicated to the proper authority for acceptance in order to proceed with the activity. The names of competent persons and qualified persons required for a particular activity, for example, excavation, scaffolding, fall protection, or other activities as specified by OSHA and this manual, shall be identified and included in the AHA, as well as proof of their competency and qualification. Work shall not begin until the AHA with the RAC for the work activity has been accepted by the GDA and discussed with all engaged in the activity, including the contractor, subcontractors, and government on-site representatives at preparatory and initial control phase meetings. AHAs are intended to be developed and used by the field crews, workers performing the work with the assistance of others, Site Safety and Health Officer, Quality Control Manager, Superintendent, etc., as needed. The initial accepted AHA shall be provided to and used by the field crews and workers that are performing that activity. AHAs shall be considered living documents and are intended to be created in the field and updated by the workers as needed. If the initial rack increases due to a change made to the AHA by the workers, the AHA shall be resubmitted to the GDA for acceptance prior to work proceeding. Changes to or updates to an AHA that do not increase the rack are not required to be resubmitted for acceptance by the GDA. Workers, crews shall have in their possession the current AHA that reflects current site conditions, personnel, equipment, control measures, etc. while the work is being performed. The AHA shall be used by the contractor and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers personnel to assure work is being performed. In the event that the work is not being conducted in a safe manner, the contractor and/or U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, contracting officer's representative or designated representative, shall immediately stop the unsafe work being conducted until it is in compliance with this manual, the APP, and the AHA, or the APP and AHA is revised and accepted by the GDA if necessary. The contractor shall employ a minimum of one competent person at each project site to function as a SSHO primary, depending on job complexity, size, and any other pertinent factors. The SSHO shall be a full-time responsibility. The SSHO shall be present at the project site, located so they have full mobility and reasonable access to all major work operations during the shift. Be an employee other than the supervisor unless specified differently in the contract and coordinated with the local SOH office. And produce a copy of their instructor-signed OSHA 30-hour training card or course completion if within 90 days of having completed the training and the card has not yet been issued. The SSHO is also required to have proof of employment for 5 years of continuous construction industry safety experience in supervising or managing general construction, managing safety programs or processes, or conducting hazard analysis and developing controls, or 5 years of continuous general industry safety experience in supervising, managing general industry, managing safety programs or processes for conducting hazard analyses and developing controls, or if the Site Safety and Health Officer has a third-party, nationally accredited SOH-related certification, only 4 years of experience is needed. SSHOs shall maintain competency through having taken 8 hours of documented, formal, online, or self-study safety and health-related coursework every year. If the SSHO is off-site for a period longer than 24 hours, an alternate SSHO shall be provided and shall fulfill the same roles and responsibilities as the primary SSHO. When the SSHO is temporarily, up to 24 hours, off-site, a designated representative, as identified in the activity hazard analysis, may be used in lieu of an alternate SSHO, and shall be on the project site at all times when work is being performed. Note, DRs are collateral duty safety personnel with safety duties in addition to their full-time occupation. A DR may not be assigned to projects that have a defined feature of work with a higher or extremely high rack code. The contractor's project management team, with the assistance of the SSHO, is responsible for managing, communicating, implementing, and enforcing compliance with the contractor's APP and other accepted safety and health submittals. If a project or task has been assessed with a rack of low, a safety point of contact, or collateral duty safety officer, as identified in the activity hazard analysis, shall be on the project site at all times when work is being performed. Where a project or task contains multiple sites, a safety POC shall be appointed for each site where remote work locations are more than 45 minutes travel time from the CDSO's main duty location. POCs shall perform safety program tasks as designated by the SOH professional, project safety officer, or CDSO and report safety findings to the appropriate level. The following exceptions apply to the SSHO requirements. Dredging contracts. SSHO requirements established in standardized contract clause for dredging project site safety personnel shall be used as it is included in the current Uniform Facilities Guide specifications. Limited service contracts, for example, mowing only, parking attendants, restroom cleaning. The contracting officer and safety and occupational health officer may modify site safety and health officer requirements and waive more stringent elements. Field walkover, surface soil sampling, or long-term water sampling with no exposure to mechanical or explosive hazards, the SSHO may be collateral duty, shall have a minimum 8 hours of training per year, and specific knowledge of the potential hazards of the tasks being completed. New in the 2014 edition of this EM 385 is the Fatigue Management Plan. A fatigue management plan shall be completed as part of the APP Project SOH plan whenever work hours exceed 10 hours a day for more than 4 consecutive days, exceed 50 hours in a 7-day work week, exceed 12 hours a day for more than 3 consecutive days, or exceed 58 hours a week for sedentary to include office type work. A fatigue management plan shall address the following conditions for operator work hour limitations. For equipment operators, same as before, not permitted to exceed 12 hours of duty time in any 24-hour period, without a minimum of 8 consecutive hours of rest between shifts in a 24-hour period. Motor vehicle operators. This is also the same as before. While on duty, shall not operate vehicles for a continuous period of more than 10 hours in any 24-hour period. A fatigue management plan shall address the following conditions for operator work hour limitations. For floating plant, this has been moved from Section 19, all floating plant personnel shall be scheduled to receive a minimum 8 hours of rest in any 24-hour period, except when quarters are provided immediately adjacent to or aboard the work site. These hours of rest may be divided into no more than 2 periods, one of which must be at least 6 continuous hours in length. And rest periods may be interrupted in case of emergency, drill, or other overriding operational necessity. The fatigue management plan shall identify affected workers, management responsibility, training, and establish controls, including controls for fatigue, which may include work scheduling, limiting the number of consecutive night shifts, rotating jobs to prevent repetitive work, breaks at critical time in the work cycle, controls of environmental factors such as heat, cold, use of personal protective equipment, buddy check-in for individuals working alone, and alternate transportation for long commutes. A competent person, qualified in the material presented, shall conduct all training required by this manual. All training shall correspond to American National Standard Institute Regulation Z490.1. Employees shall be provided an SOH indoctrination prior to the start of work, as well as continuous SOH training to enable them to perform their work in a safe manner. All training, meetings, and indoctrinations shall be documented in writing by date, name, content, and trainer. A visitor is anyone coming to the site for short-term action. For example, an inspection, a meeting, or delivery. An authorized entrant is anyone entering the site that is assigned to the site but is not a site worker. For example, security forces or other military forces. Signs shall be posted at all site entrances requiring anyone entering the site to report to the project office for a safety briefing. All visitors and authorized entrants into U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, government or contractor-controlled sites presenting hazardous conditions shall be briefed by a competent person on the hazards to be expected on the site and the safety and health controls required. For example, a hard hat, foot protection, etc. Safety meetings shall be conducted to review past activities, plan for new or changed operations, review pertinent aspects of appropriate AHA by specific trade, establish working procedures for anticipated hazards, and provide pertinent SOH training and motivation. Meetings shall be conducted at least once a month for all supervisors on the project location, and at least once a week for all workers by the project SSHO, supervisors, foremen, or Collateral Duty Safety Officers. A mishap is an unplanned, undesired event that occurs during the course of work being performed. The term mishap includes accidents, incidents, and near misses. All mishaps occurring incidentally to an operation, project, or facility for which this manual is applicable shall be reported, investigated, and analyzed. Employees are responsible for reporting all mishaps immediately to their employer or supervisor. Employers and supervisors are responsible for reporting all recordable mishaps to the GDA no later than 24 hours after notification from the affected employee. Note, the Uniform Facilities Guide specification reduces this time for reporting to 4 hours. In addition to the aforementioned reporting requirements, the employer is required to report property damage exceeding $5,000, days away injuries, days away illnesses, and restricted transfer injuries. Any accident that has or appears to have any of the consequences listed below shall be immediately reported to the government designated authority. Fatal injuries or illnesses, permanent, totally disabling injury or illnesses, permanent, partial disabling injury or illnesses, 3 or more persons hospitalized as inpatients as a result of a single occurrence, $500,000 or greater accidental property damage. These accidents shall be investigated in depth to identify all causes and to recommend hazard control measures. The GDA shall immediately notify the Safety Occupational Health Office when any of these occur and subsequently follow up with an official accident reports as prescribed by regulation. Contractors are responsible for notifying OSHA in accordance with 29 CFR 1904.39 within 8 hours when their employee or employees is fatally injured or 3 or more persons are hospitalized as inpatients as a result of a single occurrence. Please note, OSHA has published a revised rule effective January 1st, 2015. Under the revised rule, employers will be required to notify OSHA of work-related fatalities within 8 hours and work-related inpatient hospitalizations, amputations, or losses of NI within 24 hours. Any mishap occurring in any of the following high-hazard areas shall be immediately reported to the GDA. Electrical, including arc flash and uncontrolled release of hazardous energy, load handling equipment or rigging, fall from height, and underwater diving. These mishaps shall be investigated in depth to identify all causes and to recommend hazard control measures. The GDA shall immediately notify the local SOHO when any of these occurs and subsequently follow up with official reports as prescribed by regulation. Headquarters U.S. Army Corps of Engineers must also be notified immediately within 24 hours. The Navy typically requires 4-hour notification and provided follow-up investigative information within 10 days of occurrence. Records of all first aid treatments shall be maintained and submitted to the GDA upon request. Records shall include, at a minimum, employee's name, job title, date and type of mishap, causes and corrective actions taken, for example, an AHA review, a process change, the establishment of controls, personnel qualifications, and training. Emergency plans to ensure employee safety in case of fire, inclement weather, or other emergency shall be prepared in writing and reviewed with all affected employees. Emergency plans shall be tested to ensure their effectiveness. Plans shall include escape procedures and routes, critical plant operations, employee accounting following an emergency evacuation, rescue and medical duties, means of reporting emergencies, and persons to be contacted for information or clarification. The Site Safety and Health Officer or designated on-site personnel shall be responsible for checking the weather conditions at a minimum of twice a day. If lightning is observed, all load handling equipment, drill rigs, work on elevated platforms or scaffolding, roofing activities, tree trimming activities, pole climbing activities, or work in open areas shall stop. A determination shall be made as to the proximity of the operation being performed. Once lightning is seen, count the number of seconds until you hear the thunder. Divide number of seconds by 5 to get the distance the lightning is away from you. If the lightning is 10 miles away or less, work should stop until 30 minutes after the last audible thunder or visible flash of lightning.